Hey, and welcome back. Let's put everything together. First, we want to start with our register. Alright, in VS Code, I will close everything. And there are two more packages that we want to add. So open up the terminal. I will open another one. Make sure we're cd into our client folder. Alright, the first package we want to add is called React Toastify. And this package will help us display messages to notify the user of any error or success actions. The next package is Axios. This will help us make API call to our server. I will press enter. Close the terminal. Alright, the next thing we want to do is create a helper, and this helper will help us validate all of our form fields, like checking for the email format and password length. So now let's open our sidebar and navigate to our client folder. Let's collapse the server folder. Alright, now locate the component folder, and inside the component folder, let's create a new folder called helper, and inside that, a new file called validate.js. I will collapse the sidebar. Alright, so first thing we want to do is check for empty fields. And then we want to check for email format. Next, we want to check for password length. And then finally, check for password match. So when the user needs to confirm their password, the two password fields need to match. Alright, to the first task. We want to export this function out, and then const, let's call it is empty. And then it will be an arrow function. And then it will take in a param of value, so whatever we pass in this function. Next, we want to say if there is no value, we want to return true, else we want to return false. And that is it for the first function. Alright, to email format, so export const is email, arrow function, we will take in the email. And then I will paste this snippet in. So this line of code will check the email format for us. And it is also available in the GitHub repository. And then we want to return this. So retest email. Now we want to check for the password length. So export const, let's call it is length. Arrow function. And then it will take in the password. Then we want to say if password.length is less than 6 characters, we want to return true, else return false. And then finally, we want to check for the password match. So once again, export const is match, arrow function, let's pass in the password and also the confirm password. Then we want to say if password is equal to confirm password, then we want to return true, else we want to return false. Alright, give this a save. Alright, now let's open our register component. And then the first thing we want to do is import in our helper and all of our packages that we just add. So let's start with our helper. So import is empty, is email, is length. Oh, I think I spelled that wrong. Let me double check my validate. I spelled this wrong, so th. Now save this and go back here. Alright, next is match. Alright, next package will be Axios, from Axios. Then finally, we want to import the React Toast. So there are two things from that package that we want. The first is toast container, and then toast from React Toastify. And then we will also want to import the CSS file from it. So React Toastify /this/React Toastify.css. Alright, now let's work on our handle change. So this will allow us to get the value that the user typed in the input fields. Alright, first we want to define our initial state. So const initial state, it will be name to an empty string, email, also empty, password, and then confirm password. And then we will use state. So const data set data equal use state, and then we will pass in the initial state. Now we want to spread out our data so we can use it later in the register function. So const name, email, password, and then also confirm password and set that equal to data. Next, let's go down to our input fields and let's pass in the name prop. So this is how we're going to target each input field. So for this field, name will be name. I will copy this line. And then for this field, name will be email. And then here, name will be password. And then down here, name will be cf underscore password. Now let's also pass in the handle change. So handle change equal to handle change. Let's copy this line. We want all of our input fields to have this. So paste it here, here, and then here. Now let's work on the handle change function. So up here, let's say const handle change. It will be an arrow function. And then we want to take in the value. So let's say e here. So in the function, we want to use set data. And then we want to spread out the data. We want to target each input field. So e target dot name and then get the value. So e target dot value. Now let's write our register function. So const register, it will be an async function. We also want to pass in the value. First and foremost, we want to prevent the default action that the browser make. Next, we want to use our helper to validate the form. So first is check fields, and then let's say if is our name field is empty, or our password field is empty. We want to use our toast message, so return toast, and then we want to pass in the message. Let's say please fill in all fields. Next, we can define some options. So class name, let's give it a class of toast failed, and then a body class name of also toast failed. Alright, our next check is for the email field. So if the email format is not right, we want to return a toast message that say please enter a valid email address. And then our options, I will copy these lines up here and then paste it here. Next, we want to check for the password. So if is length and then pass in the password, we want to return a toast message that say password must be at least 6 characters. And then some options, I will paste these lines in. And then finally, we want to check for is match. So if our password and confirm password does not match, we want to return a toast message that say password did not match. And then of course our options. Alright, after this we will set up our try and catch block. And then of course our catch block will have the error. And then if there's an error, we want to display the toast message. Look inside our error, and then data, and then the message. Next, some options, and then paste in our options. Alright, now to our try block. First thing we want to do is post to our register endpoint. And we're going to store this in a response variable so we can use it to display our success toast message. So cons res. Next we want to use Axios and post to our endpoint, which will be /API/auth/register. And then what we want to post is the name, email, and password. After this, we want to display our toast message, and it will be the response data message that our server will send back to the user. And after that, some options. I will paste these lines in, but I will change failed to success. Alright, before we save, let's scroll up here. And right here, check email. Should be is email instead of is empty. Alright, next, in order to display our toast message, we need to wrap our form in a fragment. So here, and then here. And then on top of the form, we want to say toast container. Alright, there seems to be an error in my code. And let me double check really quick. Right here, it should be a comma. Now let's scroll down into our form. And then in our form, we want to say on submit. It will fire our register function. And then also scroll down to our button. It will have a type of submit. Next, let's write one more function. And it will be const handle reset. It will be an arrow function. So the purpose of this function is to clear out the input field once the user clicks submit and complete their register process. Alright, so let's say array. And then from, we want to target the input. So document dot query selector all. And we want to select all the input. And then we want to loop through each input. So for each, we will say input and say it value to be empty. Next, we want to set our data back to empty strings. So spread out our data, and then name will be empty, email will be empty, password, and then confirm password. Alright, now we want to fire this in our register function, but outside of our try and catch block. So handle reset here. Now let's give this a save. And now before we test this out, let's navigate to our package.json, the one that's inside our client folder. And we want to go down all the way to the bottom. And then after this line, let's put a comma. And we want to say proxy. It's going to be http://localhost 8000. Now let's give this a quick save and then reset our server. Alright, let's go back to VS Code. And the reason that we did that for the proxy is because in our try block, when we use Axios, I do not want to type HTTP, localhost, and then 8000 here. I just want to type the /API. That's why we use the proxy. Alright, next let's go to our Mongo database. I have mine right here. I'm going to delete this user so I can use this email to register again. So delete. Alright, there's one more thing that I forgot. So let's jump back into our VS Code and let's open up our input SAS file. Okay, for these class name right here, toast failed or toast success, we have not defined the style. So let's define the style now. So I will scroll all the way to the bottom and then let's put it here. And also make sure to watch SAS is on. Alright, cool. So the first thing is toast failed. Let's give it a background color of pink. And we also need to say important to override the default style. And then we want to set the text color to be white. Alright, next is toast success. So our background color will be green. And then important, our text color will also be white. Give this a quick save. Now let's navigate to the front end. Let's go to register and then fill out our form. So I will say user 1, passion corners, my password, and then enter. And here's my success message. Now let's check our email. And here's the email. Alright, cool. And this will also wrap up the lesson, and I'll see you in the next lesson.